Good evening to everyone. You're welcome to today's class on Geographic Data Science. This is our first week on the course, and we'll be driving into the basic of Python programming language. This is very, very important for us to learn in order to go into data science in our preceding courses. So we like to talk on the environment we'll be using for this program. We'll be using Code Research Laboratory by Google. So if you want to follow along, maybe after the lesson, you want to go over the work we do, just search for Code Lab on Google. You will be directed to Code Lab, or you can use the link I put on the note here. So that's how to get to this Jupyter notebook. Later on in the course, I will teach us how to install all these things on our local system so that we can use it for the work. But for now, it will be safer for us that we use the cloud computing server provided by Google. So today is just to have a taste of Python, and I will be talking, or I have 2 lectures, 2 notes, so we have a lot of things to do. So I just have to move forward now. Now, we start our Python lesson by learning a bit of basic operations that you can perform with Python. So I put some general information here, and it's only talking of how to use this Python notebook. If you want to run it, just press Shift Enter, then your application will run. I will still talk more about that later. So if you want to get started also, go to this link, Code Lab Research, and create your notebook. Once you are in that link, let me minimize here. Once you are on that link, you will have a platform like this. So you can create a new book by going to File, create a new notebook, then you can start working with your notebook. With what we want to learn today, you can start practicing on it. So, and if you install it on your local system, you can just press Jupyter Lab. Maybe if you install Anaconda on your local system. But later on in our programming, as we continue this course, I will show us how to install and how to use it on our local system. So, but for now, we'll be using the cloud computing, which I think is easy. This cloud computing gives you your RAM and disk free. So you don't need to have a better RAM on your system before you can use it. I think it's free to some extent. Then if you have more computation or modeling you want to do, you will have to buy more RAM, which at least for now, what we have is okay for us. So today, I want to talk about variables are functions. Variable, math, and functions. So we can write some simple math operation on Python. As you can see in this note, I have 1 plus 1. Everybody knows the answer to be 2. You see the answer? So you can just do some basic mathematical operation with Python like that. The same thing with this, we have 5 multiplied by 7. This sign is a sign for multiplication. So while we have plus, just as we have plus in our normal mathematics, as sign for addition, why this represents multiplication. In case of division, we have this for division. So I will do that later. So for multiplication, 5 multiplied by 7, if you play on it, if you press this button play, it will give you your answer. So if you want to edit and rerun your code, simply change to the cell and press Shift Enter to execute the modified code. Like say I want to edit, just click on the cell. This is the cell. See, it's different from the every other body, because in this notebook you can insert your text. This is just an ordinary text, while this is cell. So if I want to do division now, let me do the division with this, give me decimal points. So that is what we can do. And if you want to insert a new cells, you can just zoom up. You will see at the up here, you see insert code. So I want to insert code somewhere here. Another thing is you can double click and it will give you this icon, insert code. So now what I want to write here now, I want to zoom a bit. Let me write for that multiplication, 50 divided by 10, and it should give me 5. So simple mathematical operation can be done with Python. Now, I want to talk on function. Function in Python. You can use Python for more advanced mathematics functions. Functions are pieces of code that perform a single action, such as printing information to the screen, like the print, like this print function. Function also exists for an odd number of operations in Python. So we have several functions in Python that you can call. So today we will look at how can we call function. Function, what is function itself? Function take parameters. It process that parameters and it give you an output. Example are all the mathematical functions that we have in Python. One of it is sign. So the name of that function is sign. And to call that function, you use parentheses like this, and it take a parameters. And what is that parameter? 3. So it processes that parameter and give us a result. Now, it's not all functions that take parameters. Some function doesn't take parameters. Once you just invoke them, they do some operation and give you the result. But one thing is certain, all function must give you an output. So for this one now, if I run it, it gives me sign of 3. Now, as you can see, it's telling me that sign is not defined because Python doesn't understand what sign means in this place. And the reason is that I have not imported the modules for it to work. So that's why it's giving me an error here. So even together with this, if I still say, it still gives me an error because it did not understand what square root means. Why this is square root in mathematics, in Python. This is the sign for calling function that deal with square root in mathematics in Python. So now what we are to do if we are to run this is to import mathematics function. Say import math. So I have imported maths now. So I say math dot sign. Coming sign 3. It's running. It gives me the sign of 3. Now, what I'm doing here is that before I only run sign, and Python this compiler doesn't understand what sign means until I import the module. So I import the module from mathematical module. As you can see, this module is always available, and it provides access to mathematical functions defined by the C standard, as you can see on our screen. So this module is always available. So if I want to import it, maybe I didn't want to be calling math all the time. What I can do is I will say import math as M, so that if I want to use it here, I will just say m dot sign 3. It gives me the same result. The same thing with this square root. I will just say m dot sign square root of 4, and it will give me 2. So this is how it works. We will dive into this function in more details in our subsequent classes, where we'll be able to create our own function, import it, use it on different modules. So the reason for function in programming language is for reusability. So if somebody has written a function somewhere, I don't need to be rewriting it all over again. I will just get its module, import it to my program, and use it once and for all. So as you can see, this math function, it takes in a parameter and it gives us an output. So that is mathematics operation. So now let's go to mathematics operation. As we have seen earlier before, we have seen addition, we have seen subtraction, multiplication also, and this is how to use it. Then we have division. We have division, just a backslash. Exponentiation, that's if you want to do an exponentiation, this is how to have it. Just 2 stars, and the answer will be 8. So for anything more advanced, we need to load a term module or a term library. That is what I'm talking about before. For math module. So, and you see, it's just what I've talked about. If you want to do anything more advanced than this basic function, you have to load your mathematics module. And when you load that mathematics module, you can say math.sign 3, and it will give you your answer, just as what we have said before. So the same thing applies to the square root. You see, the same thing applies to square root also. So give you 2. Now, let's summarize what we have learned. A module is a group of code, such as functions, that are related to one another. So, individual modules are often in a group referred to as a library. So, if you have several modules, you can call it a library. These are things we will develop on our own as we move further in this course. This is just an introduction to it. So, and another thing we have learned is that module can be loaded using import keyword. Import keyword. So, anywhere in your code, or if you are reading another person's code and you see the word import, you know that they want to load in a module. So, functions that are part of modules, that is, that are named module name, that in the module name, can then the function math, and the function name is now square root, taking a parameter 4. So the same thing. 3. Within a given Jupyter notebook, the variable you define earlier in the notebook will be available for use in the cell that follow as long as you have already executed the cell. So what that place is telling us is that if you declare any variables in any of the cells, let me do this so that we could understand. Come, Shift, Enter. Now I want to insert a code here, and I want to name a variable. Let me just call that variable SM, and I give it a value 3. So this is a variable SM, and it's equals to 3. So if I execute this variable, anywhere in my notebook, I can access this variable. That is what this portion is talking about. So for now, I only define it. I have not executed by clicking on this play button. So let me call it here and say let me insert another code. Let me just call it here and say SM. Sorry, SM. And play. You will discover that you give me an error, name error, because it did not know what that means. But now let me run where I have defined it. If I run it, yes, it notes my SM now that is existing. So if I play this that give me error in subsequent before, that give me error before, if I play it now, I'm not expecting it to give me error. Rather, it gives me what SM means in the memory of our code, which is step, because I assigned 3 to it. So that is what this portion of what we have learned so far is talking about. So the next thing is module may also contain constants such as pi. We all know pi 22 divided by 7. You can call a module that contains such a pi. So now I can say pi because I've defined my math before. So he recognized my math. No, I've imported my math before, so he recognizes it. That's what this third aspect is talking about, that once you declare a variable, he recognizes it throughout the notebook. So he recognized my math here because I've defined it before. Or if I say m.pi, don't forget m. Yeah. So it will still give me the same answer. If I say m.pi, you see, it still give me the same answer. So you can try to check your understanding with this. Let's do this. Say, use empty Python cell below to calculate the sine of pi. What value do you expect for this calculation? Did you get the expected result? Now, before I move forward, you see that I have in this cell, I have a write-up up here. Say place your code online here. You see anything you have in your cell or when you are writing code and it begin with this hash sign, we call it comment. And what computer will do is that any place where you see comment, you skip it. You know it's not part of your code. Comment is only used in your code when you want to remind yourself of some things. You want to keep some notes so that in the future when you go back to your code, you'll be able to understand what that code is for. So computers keep every comment. And call every comment in Python begin with this hash sign. So now I want to run a simple pi as a variable here and say it is math or math.py. So it's already a variable there. Now I can now say sine math, which is math.py, sorry, math.sine or pi. So now, as you can see, pi is a variable here and is assigned to a constant in math library, which is math.py. I assign this math.py to pi. And here, I say math.sine, which is another function. And I give it a parameter of pi. And what I'm telling this program to do is that find the sine of pi. So if I run this code now, it will give me the answer, which is this, which is correct. So this is how to use variable upon variable, calling variable in a function. So now this variable pi is serving as a parameter to this function. And this function belongs to the module math. We'll be using this thing a lot. So let's notice it very well. I will make this note available after the class because I've edited it. So it's different from the one I sent earlier. Another example is we can combine functions. This is one function, print. And this is another function, square root. So I can combine different functions. What this thing will do is that my computer will have to find the square root of 4. That's the first thing. Then the answer will now become a parameter to the function print. And the result will be out. So let's run it. And the answer is 2. So we can combine functions. These are the tastes of Python. It's a very powerful programming language. We will see it in action by the time we start doing some real life work. So now, you can also combine tests with other calculated value using print. So inside print function, you can put a function, a calculation parameters inside print function. And you will have your solution. So example is this. Print the square root of 4 is, so what this thing will do for us is that it will first calculate what the square root of 4 is. That means we execute this function here, give it as a parameter to print function, and print function will just print the result out. So let's see the outcome. See now, the square root of 4 is 2.0. So you can change it if you like. Let me put the square root of 40. Then I change there to be 40. And let me see. Square root of 40 is 6.327. So that is how function can be combined together with text, with any other thing. So now, I want to move down to variable. What are variables? Variables are used to store value in a computer system. So it can be used to store value calculated in expression and used for other calculation, just as I've done earlier and which I will still do again. So assigning value to variable is straightforward. We just have to use equals to sign, just as you see here. Variable name equals to the value of that variable. So where variable name is the name of the variable. So you wish to define. Now, in the cell below, let's look at the cell below. We have temperature that is measured in Celsius. And we assign a value of 10.0 to it. So it's function like this. So now it's 10. After running it, it's running. You have to have a good internet connection if you want to use cloud computing. So now it's 10. So as we did above, you can combine tests just like the one we did before. Combine tests just to format our output and say temperature infrared equals to this. This is the conversion from Celsius to infrared multiplied by the Celsius temperature that we have declared above here plus 32. So if I run this, it will give me the conversion infrared, and which is 50. So it's also a way to check our understanding. We will use an empty Python cell below, and we place a code here to print a function. Hello? To print a function, the variable value can be anything you like, and you can even consider dividing several variables and print them out together. So let's do so. Let me think of any variable here. Let me think of my first name. First name. I give it value, which is Amware. Then let me think of my last name. Let me give it another value. So I'm declaring variable first name and last name. Let me give it value, which is Bolarewa. Sorry. Now the value I'm giving it here is string. We still get back to it. So I have to put it in curly brace, in quotes. Please, if you are joining, just mute yourself. So I have these two variables, which I can combine together with print function, just to buttress what we have learned. Print. I can say, I can use string in that print and say, my name is this. So I can, let me do some things here. name. I have a variable called name. I want to combine that two variables together, which is first name. First name plus. Don't mind me with plus now. It's just a or let me not complicate it now. Let me use this. Let me just say my name is first name, comma, first name, comma, and last name. So let me quickly run this because we have less than a minute. Oh, I have an error. Say I have an error coming. The error is coming from my typo. I have a typo error coming. This and this. Let me just copy it. I think it's okay. Invalid syntax. Okay. Let me use just one variable. Should run with one variable. So I can say
Hello, can you hear me?
yes.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes. You have, yeah. Hello, this is Onuche.
Okay. I can hear you. Hello.
Can you hear? Yeah, this is Onuche. You have not. You have not actually. Can you? Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear
Hello, can you
you.
hear me?
I can hear you,
Yes.
sir.
You have not. You have not defined. You have not declared your parameters for the tuning to run.
That you haven't run the parameters, like the first name is like you didn't run them for the system to like recognize them as first name and last name.
Okay, we will redo it now. First name, at least last name. I'm coming. Last name. I think I have these two variables now. The system should be able to recognize it, but I want to increase my code. I don't want to split it. So I want to have a full name, which is another variable.
Yes.
Full name. And in that full name, I want to format my name to look readable for computer.
Yes. Now you're getting. Yeah, it's okay. Yes.
So we can have first name. I want to concatenate it. Put a space in between.
Okay.
Then last name. You see now I'm using various variables to attach to another variable. So last name.
Yeah.
With this, if I run it, I should not have any error. So I can now say print my name is then I'll put the full name. Then if I run it, let's see if we have error. Now we don't have error. So you see now my name is Omowari Bolaniwa. Now what I've done here is I create another variable called full name. that combine these two variables together. And I just concatenate. To concatenate means joining two things together, two strings together, because this is a string and this first name is a string, this last name is a string. Don't worry yourself about string now. We still go back to data type very soon. So, but I'm concatenating string together. So when compiler C+, he joined those strings together. If it is a number, he had it together. So that's just the difference between concatenation. But this is concatenation in Python, and we'll be using it a lot. So it is also possible to update your variable. Don't forget, we declared this variable before. Let me do something here. We declared this temperature Celsius before to be 10, if you can remember. So I can update it. So if within your code, you can update it and do anything with it. So let me update it now. If I print it now, it give me 19 points. You see now it's telling me temperatures. No, I have error here. Okay, say print temperature Celsius is now. Sorry. So if I say print temperatures Celsius, it will give me 19.45. So I can also make it in a formatted string like this and put it inside print function, and you see I have the same answer. So that's how to update your variable. So I think if you go through all this also, just like what we have done before, this one is giving error because temperature variable minus 32 is not defined. Variable is not defined, and the reason why he's saying variable is not defined is that it doesn't recognize any variable. So if you try to run some code that access a variable that has not yet been defined, you will get a name error. So as a programmer, any error your system is giving you, you should be able to know where you miss it. So if you have an error that is called name error, you should know that you didn't declare your variable in your code. So that's why it's giving the computer system problem. So say try print out the value of the variable using print. So it will give you error definitely because you have not defined it before, and that is what has just happened now. So that is on that. Now let me define it here. See now I have now defined it, and if I want to print it now in the next cell, it will give me correct information about it because I have now to define that variable. So changing value of variable does not affect other variable value. So now let's redefine temperature Celsius to be equal to 20 and print out the value of temperature Celsius and temperature variable. So we want to know that in this place we use temperature Celsius, which is 19.45, and the answer there, to calculate temperature in variable, we use that temperature Celsius again. What we want to prove here is that if I change one of the variable, it does not affect the other variable. I hope you get me. So that is what I want to do now. You can also practice it at your lectures time. So let me do something here. So now I have changed it, and it's not telling me it is 20. Why I'm still getting the same answer here? That means it does not affect data variable. I just change it now. It does not have any dependency on the other variable. So now we want to move to another topic called data type. Just as you have been hearing me saying string before, now we are into it. Data type. We have some primitive data type in Python, and one of it is integer. Integer is just a number without decimal point. So we call it a whole integer value. Like example, like 4, 5, 20. Any number without decimal point is an integer in Python. Also, we have what we call floats. These are numbers with decimal values. Example is this, 3.1415. So another data type we have is string. Just as you have seen me using it before, my name, I declare my first name and my last name as string. So you can see that string represented with str. If you want to define any string in Python, string is a series of characters in quotes, like this auth now. You see that? We quote it. Anytime you computer sees that series of characters in quotes, it tags it as string data type. So the last one is the Boolean. Boolean can take only two values. It's either true or false. So example is true and the other one is false. So these are the four primitive data type that we have in Python. Now, the data type can be found using this type function. If you want to know the data type of any variable you are using, you can use this type function and it will tell you the data type for that function. Example is this. We have weather forecast, which is a variable, and we assign a value to it. So we want to know the data type of this value auth. Of course, what will you be expecting is string. Should give us string. So let's run it. You see now, it gives us string. So let me change this to another thing. 45. I'm expecting integer. If I give it decimal point now, I'm expecting float. So that is how it works. Let me return this back to auth. So it's either you use double quote or single quote, it's still the same thing. See, I'm back to string. Now, that is that. Let's also check the type of temperature variable that we have before, that we have declared earlier in our notes. The answer should be false. So it's telling me name error type, type ratio of I think, let me do something here. Let me run this. Now, you see, I have float. So in this case, although I have a typo error, let me go back to what I just deleted. So in this case, we get a type error because we are trying to execute a math operation with data type that are not compatible. There is no way Python to multiply number with a character string. So now, this is another case study here. We have a temperature environment plus this, and we have a weather forecast. And remember, this weather forecast is what? Auth. Now, this is a string. This is a float. This is also a float. Now we are adding string, multiplying string with a float. That's why it's giving us a type error. So that is another error we have to look up to when we are working, when we are doing our programming. Another type of error that we can also have is type error. So when you have type error, you know that you are adding, either you are adding data of different type together, or you are multiplying data that are not compatible with each other together. So once you have this, you can check your code again and try to refabricate it. So if I want to make this better now, I can cancel this because it's string. And if I run it, it should give me a better answer now. See, I know I don't have any error now any longer. So I can print, if I want, I can print this out. So I can see the output, which is temperature, temp var. If I run it, give me my answer. Good. So I can go now. So there's an exercise to check your understanding here. So you can practice this exercise on your own lecture site. So let me go to character input. So Python and Jupyter Notebook also let us interact in another way with our code. And one of the way is it accepts input from us. And to do that, to give our code that functionality, we use an inbuilt function called input, just as you see here. This function reads a line from input and return it as a string. You must know that very well. Everywhere you use that function, it will read a line, that is the line that the user enter as a string. It will return it as a string data type. So we will use this a lot. And let me just skip that. You see now, this is an example of it. I want to know your place, where you are living. And I now say, input where you are from. Where are you from? If I run this now, the first thing you will see down here is, where are you from? It will appear like a question. So anything you input after that question will be stored in your place, in the place variable. Then computer will now print that place out. So it will now say, if you are living in Lagos, it will say Lagos is a nice place. So that is what this code will be doing for us. So let me run it. You see. Now, you say, where are you from? It gives you a text box to type, where are you from? Oh, I'm from Lagos. So once I press enter, you say, Lagos is a nice place. So if you want to accept input from your user, you use the input function, just as you have seen that we have used now. So we can modify this in several ways, like this another example. And this example is asking questions, say, how cold can it be in Vatia in degrees Celsius? So whatever you enter now is stored inside this temperature Celsius, and the computer will now print it out and say, whatever you enter, degree Celsius is quite cold. So now let me run it. It will ask me that question. You see, say, how cold can it be in Vietnam? Oh, let me say, oh, maybe I'm going negative 45. Say, oh, minus 45 degrees Celsius is quite cold. Good. So input function accepts parameter from outside and attach that parameter as a string to a variable that we assign it to. Now, to know whether it is truly assigned it as a string, let's check the type of our temperature now. Temperature Celsius. We see that it's a string because the data he has set from outside, he turned it to a string internally and assign it to temperature Celsius. So let me say type all right. So type of what? Temperature Celsius. If I run this now, you see it's giving me string. That is to say, if I want to use this in calculation, I must first turn it to a number before it can be compatible with mathematical operators, unless I will be doing concatenating if it is two string that I'm adding. So that is that. Now, what is data type of variable place? Just as I've done now, the data type of variable place is string. What of the temperature also is string. So if I run this, I should get two answers, string, string. Now, you see now, it's giving me something here. It's a class of string, class, string. Now, we will still talk about classes in our subsequent week when we get deep into Python. And what I want you to note now is that every data type is a class. You will be creating your own class. When you create your own class, it becomes a data type. That's why I was emphasizing the other time that we only have 4 primitive data types. Primitive means fundamental data type in Python. So that means that we still have some other data type. And those data types come from your own classes. I will talk more on that when we get to classes and method in subsequent classes. So now, what happens when you try to convert your Celsius temperature value to bar? Yeah, definitely, what will happen here is will be type error. Let's try it. You see? You see? You see the type of error we are? Type error. So, and why? Because this our temperature Celsius is string. And there's no way you can be multiplying number, float. This is float, multiply by string. It's not possible. Computer will complain. So the best you can do here is to convert this to to convert it to float. I think, let me try it. You can convert it saying, let me do this, float in bracket. If you call a float here, cut this here, put it here. So I call a function float on this string. So what this will do for me is that it converts this temperature Celsius, which is in string, as the user has inputted it into the program. It will convert it to float. Then let me see if I will have a correct answer. You see now it's run without any error. Let me print it out so that we can see. Print temperature, right? So let me print it. So you see minus 45. So you see I've converted string here with float. So those are the things we can do. I can convert from integer to string. So you can convert from one data type to another. That's what I'm trying to emphasize here. So that is on the first lecture. Now I want to go to the second part, which is the best practice when you are writing code. That one will be dealing with best practice. If may say you want to define your variable, what are the best practice you have to ensure
What's your question,
you
please?
are obeying? Yes.
Another, yeah, like how long will the second part take us? But this is past 10, I think.
Yes, is in 10 minutes we should be done.
Okay, and I wanted to ask a question also. When we were doing the input, like the temperature, that it asks about temperature and one input. What if one had inputted like 40 degrees? How will it know that it's cold while actually it is hot?
I tell you, for this code now, you will still say, oh, it's too cold, because there's no logic behind it to actually look at the value you enter. Yes, there's no conditional statement. We can still write such a program that once the person input anything greater than 10, he may say, oh, it's hot. Anything lower than 10 degrees Celsius, oh, it's too cold. So we still get back to that. That's under conditional statement.
It's okay. So let us restore that one.
So let me open the other one, part B, just a very small note, just to know the best practice, so that we will not just be defining variable anyhow. So what's the best practice of selecting variable name? Your variable name must be meaningful. It must be something that once you see it, you have idea of what that variable is all about. Like what I defined the other time, first name. So anybody who see first name in my code, we know that, oh, I'm defining first name here. Now let's look at this example. I just have s equals to this. S equals to this. This does not make any sense, because in nearest, it may make sense to me as I'm writing the code now. Maybe in the nearest future, I want to visit my code, I may not know what S really means, because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't really connote what I want to depict. Another example is CID. This doesn't make any sense to me. So I think the code has to be something that makes sense to you. Your variable has to be something that makes sense to you, something that can quickly give you meaning of what that variable is. Look at this example. You can't write code like this unless you are trying to hide something. Maybe you want to write a virus that will snap and you don't want people to track you. But this is something that makes no sense, because you cannot quickly really know what is going on here. So what are the good way of writing your variables? Let's do number one, be clear and concise. Let your variable name be clear and be concise. Two, let it be written in English language, unless you deliberately want to write it in your own native language, because people are developing things like that now. So, but let it be written in English language that you can read and understand. That's the good. So, not contain special character. Your code, your variable name should not contain special character. What are special character? Like plus, minus. But it can contain underscore. Can contain underscore, but it should not contain other special character. So, I said it is better to avoid variables such as this. You cannot say you have a variable name. Computer will complain. You see, it has special characters. No. So, because the encoding issue will arise, computer may not be able to encode this type of variable. So, not conflict with Python keyword. So that means you must not use a variable name that have Python keyword that Python is already using as its own keyword. Example is for. Example, you now declare a variable called for. For is a keyword in Python, so you can use it. Another one is true. True is a keyword in Python. You can't use it. Another one is false. And if or else, they are all keyword in Python. So you cannot use keyword in Python. Python keyword as a variable. You cannot use Python keyword as a variable. Please know that. Also, formatting good variable name. What are the recommendations? the first recommendation when you are writing a variable and you want to make it readable, understandable, concise, and easy to recognize, first recommendation is you can use a pothole case naming. A pothole case naming techniques. Example is this. If you look at this code now, this is from station ID. Everybody who's a surveyor will know that, oh, this is from station ID. From station to station ID. You see now, in between, I use underscore. So someone can just read it once and for all. You know, my code cannot have space. So instead of space, I put underscore there. So the recommendation two, another way of writing it is what we call camel kills naming. Camel kills naming techniques. And what is that camel kills? The first word will be small letter. Every other word, the first letter there will be capital letter. So you see now, this one that I use now, I write it in camel case now. It's now what? From, you see station having capital letter and the ID which is in capital letter. Another one is this. The first word will be in small letter. Every other subsequent word, the first word of that subsequent word will be in capital letter. That's what we call camel case. And that's what we normally use in Python, in programming generally, even in JavaScript, in every other programming language. That is what we use most majorly. We use either this or this. So these are the best naming practice in Python or in programming language. Thank you for listening. This is the end of this week class. There are tests, we can go through the notes, try it on our own, run it on our own. If you run into error, you can chat me up also. If there's any way, I can come, you can send me your notes and I can correct if there's any error that you cannot correct. So thank you for listening. Yeah. Is there any question? Any question?
Yes, if we are to if there's any hiccup, is it through the transform?
I didn't hear you very well. The thing was dragging. That network was dragging.
Maybe he can chat you. He can just put the question in the chat box. If his network is not too good, because I know there's some network. So can you type your message in the chat box, please? Okay, one of the one that I wanted to ask again, when you say where are you from and you put Lagos, it said Lagos is a nice place. What of if the place that you put is not Lagos? Just say I asked for. I say I'm from Mina or I'm from somewhere, and the place.
Yes, we also say Mina is a nice place.
So every place that one put will be.
Yes, it's just taking what you put, combine it with the other structure of the program.
Okay.
And print it out. Let me open it back. So that's what we just do.
So if there's no question again, maybe there's no question. It's like,
I think we can just go through the notes.
Yeah.
And that's one beauty of this platform. You can go through the note again. It's well explanatory. and more than what I even explained. Then I think I will share this one that I have edited also, but it's in that note. Can have the raw note, then the edited one can have it, so that you can now compare. So
It's okay.
there's no any question.
Yeah, I think if anybody has any question, they will chat you up so that people will go and rest and
Okay.
prepare for tomorrow. Thank you very so much. God will bless you. So see you guys next week. By God.
Okay, I think this person has sent his question.
Okay.
Okay. It's still typing. Don't worry. Okay, I think we can stop.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.